was pretty fast.
Yeah, so thanks for coming, everyone. Yeah, I don't know. My instinct is to make, because I was so sappy, I want to like force all of you to be as well. But live in this with me. But yeah, I don't know. Like the talk was mostly. I mean, obviously, I did a lot of sharing about my experience with anxiety. I didn't mention in the talk, but I'm less involved with it now because of distance and busyness. But I'm also part of a mental health charity surrounding games called Take This. So, yeah, it's something that's, mental health is obviously something that I'm very, mental positive, I don't know how to say that. Mental health is just like the umbrella, but like, hey, I'm cool with myself, that idea is something I'm very passionate about.
Self-acceptance?
Self-acceptance, there you go, hey, there we go. You guys should be the speakers. Yeah, so, mostly anything about, I asked you guys to talk about to think of your favorite gaming memories. I'd love to hear some of them also if you wanted to share them. And yeah, if anyone wanted to talk about mental health shit, obviously do not feel pressured to do that at all, because it's very difficult and you shouldn't feel pressured to do that at all. It's just there's an open space if anyone wants to say anything. Also, I'm sorry, just a second. Obviously this is like a safe space policy, so please, anything shared here, do not repeat to anyone. Anything that's said here stays here. Also, don't be mean. So if someone says like something really like personal and hard, like don't be like, that's stupid. Like don't do that. Be accepting of other people, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, main thing is if you're gonna say something, then if anyone's gonna say anything, please keep it in this room.
Yeah, I can open it up. I was actually told to come to this and told to talk to you by, and I can't remember his name, but he's the guy here from Gearbox who's the character designer. Adam. I met him at the bar last night at the party. Great guy. And I was talking. He told me to talk to you because I have Tourette syndrome.
Really?
That's why that's why I'm twitching. And I've actually had anxiety since I was 10, like you.
Boom.
Boom, boom. So it was kind of funny that you were talking, and I'm like, hey, I didn't know that. But I have the same thing. I have panic disorder, though. It's not necessarily crime, but I have panic disorder. So if I, without meds, I may have panic attacks multiple times throughout the day. They're not fun. They're not fun. And so the Tourette syndrome is actually the thing I talk about because it actually, a lot of people, does anybody here know about Tourette syndrome at all? Let me guess you hear it's the swearing thing, right? That's usually what most people hear. But that's like 10% of Tourette's people. Mine is I twitch a lot like that. I also make some noises, but you guys can't hear them because it's actually pretty quiet. But it's actually interesting because some people don't tend to think that it actually translates to games. And it's really funny for me because games have actually been a way that I can play and experience things. Well, I mean, games for me has always been about escapism. Why be here when I can be off, in a galaxy far, far away, or off in a fantasy land, shouting at dragons. But for me, it's always interesting because people don't tend to think that Tourette's actually really inhibits that a lot. So one thing I've always been big about, and I'm here from the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. I'm part of a gaming website called Game Zombie, and there's another guy right there. There's Max, he's from Whitewater.
Street reppin'.
Yeah. And I've written some articles about accessibility in games with regards to not only mental disabilities, but physical disabilities as well. And this is a pretty big physical disability. I wrote an article like the top least Tourette's friendly games. I was super proud of. There's I think there's like a top 5. One was Halo. Because when I'm holding a controller and I spawn into a multiplayer match, sometimes I have to slam both triggers at the same time and kill all my friends. Because the left triggers immediately throw a grenade. I can't cancel that. So I've gotten booted from games several times. Number 1 was Assassin's Creed. Least Tourette's friendly game I've ever played. Yeah. Because if I'm free running and I look away and I turn the controller a little bit to the left, I'm jumping off the building and dying.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I still like this, the parts of the series, but yeah, so it's something I've always been interested in, accessibility as well as mental thing. But I work with a guy named Brock who is he's a cerebral palsy victim, and he is very disabled. He can't talk at all, and he can only use his right hand.
Oh, wow.
And he plays games. He loves games, and so we actually wrote an article about accessibility in games with regards to what developers can do about making their games more accessible. And that's something that I wanted to talk about at this con because a lot of us are developers. And I think that's something that has always been talked about in games is accessibility. Because games as a whole normally aren't that accessible to people with physical disabilities. But there are a lot of things that people can do out there, and it's just something that I've always been interested in. But I just wanted to say that I relate a lot to your talk. I actually tweeted saying that you describe anxiety better than in my entire 11 years of having anxiety. You described it perfectly more than I ever could.
Nice, back in the net.
You get that award there.
Thanks.
But that the mental health charity, what's that called again?
Take this.
Because I would like to be a part of that. Because
Yeah,
being a mental health victim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're trying to expand. They're still pretty new. Mostly what they've been doing recently is they'll have a sort of, they call them AFK rooms. So they've had AFK rooms at PAX. So it's pretty much just like, because PAX is so that if you have, if you're prone to anxiety or you just have, you're sensitive to stimulation essentially, then the AFK room is a place where you can go and just chill out. It's always quiet in there. There are people that always manning it that are part of Take This or associates that can help you, can talk to you.
That sounds really nice.
Yeah, it's really nice. And the enforcers, I think, they always brief the enforcers about what to do if someone's being overstimulated, and they can take them to the AFK room and that kind of thing. So that's mainly what they've been doing, is just kind of providing a safe space for people to just chill out if they need to at conventions. But but I think they're also trying, like a while ago, we were talking about a bunch of different things, and we have a meeting soon. I think we're trying to expand our efforts, but we're not entirely sure yet how. But yeah, that's the main way.
Yeah, because I've dealt with anxiety, and it's actually almost, I think the end of this school year will be 1 year since my last panic attack, which is a big achievement for me.
Nice!
That's something that a couple years ago I would never imagine, so I'm actually pretty excited about that, going a complete year without a panic attack, which is a pretty big achievement. But
that's great.
Yeah, it is really great. So I would love to look into that and get involved.
Yeah, if you just search for Take This, I think it's takethis.org. I think it's actually, we got the website takethis.org, so it's got all the information on there. If anyone's interested in Take This and mental health stuff as it intersects with games, Take This is a big part of that now.
How did you get involved in writing for games and stuff, writing for shows?
Mostly through my web series. Kind of everything trickles back down to Hey Ash, which is so weird because we really didn't think that was going to be the case when we started the show. But yeah, so kind of all of my voice acting gigs and my writing gigs have all at least indirectly come from Hey Ash. It all branches out from there, which is really interesting. So that's a general thing also. If any of you guys are creative, just in any way, you kind of just have to do the thing. Because and there's always like, oh, how do I get into whatever? It's like literally just do the thing. Whatever the thing is, just do it. You have to. Otherwise, if you like sit and think about like, which is very easy, especially if you have mental health stuff, to like double and second, triple guess yourself and be like, well, no one's gonna like it if I do it. Why should I even try? Just do it. Because Anthony and I both had, it's a Burch family trait to be like, I probably suck most of the time, and we still did it, and so it ended up working out. So that's just a general thing. Did you had a...
Yeah, I was actually, a question for Take This or a suggestion, I'm not sure, but I know, I'm trying to remember what they're called right now, Felicia Days.
Country?
Yeah, they did the lupus, kind of thing, fund-a-thon on Twitch a few weeks ago, and they raised crazy amounts of money, $150,000.
Nice.
And I would think that would be something that might, especially because anxiety is so linked to people in the game, so many gamers have anxiety and depression, that would be a really successful venture, I think.
Totally.
To do kind of a Twitch fund-a-thon kind of deal.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I'll bring it to the board.
I think that would be super cool. I know I would love to participate in that, or at least even sit down.
Thank you.
Talk to the council.
Yeah. Go to the council as well.
I just wanted to say, for accessibility in games, it's not even really that hard. Just adding in something simple like a colorblind mode or mappable controls does miles for people that need that stuff. And I know sitting in a room with game developers is just add a feature. It's not that hard. It's not that hard.
And I'll tell you about it because I was talking. What was his name? Adam.
Adam. Oh my God. Adam May.
Yeah, great guy. I love talking with him. But Brock, I've talked to him, and we wrote our articles for our respective disabilities, what developers can do to help. His big thing is remappable controls. If he could remap the controls to what he wants, he could play so much easier. It'd be so much easier. Things in consoles, it's never really been a thing. And Adam was telling me why. Because for developers, they only follow precise set profiles and controls like Southpaw and all the good stuff, Bumper Jumper if you knew Halo at all. And the reason is because the publisher, when you send in a game, the publisher needs to make sure that every single feature works for every single thing, which means that if you have remappable controls, you have to test for every single possibility and play through the whole game like that. Which if you have 5, that's 5 permutations. That's a lot, and
Right.
plus the amount of buttons, so that's why. But it's actually getting better.
Right.
I've heard some rumors about PlayStation getting into that remappable control scheme because that's actually really important
Yeah.
for a lot of people. I've known charities that you can get in contact with them if you're physically disabled, and they will work with you and create a controller that works for you. I've seen them make one-handed controllers that does everything,
That's
but
great.
for one hand, or they work with people who have disabilities, and they work one-on-one and develop for their own limitations, and they can play games normally, and that's really cool. I wish it was bigger, but you know.
Yeah.
Local company that's trying to raise funds called Daggers, and it's all about accessibility and educating game developers too. So they provide a service to play and also help communicate that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We've got a Patreon, I don't know much more than that.
That's great. That's really awesome. Yeah.
A little change of pace.
Yeah.
A couple times when you're talking, you mentioned, I love this game, but it's got problems.
Uh-huh.
How do people kind of reconcile that when you really love something and it's got problems?
It's fun.
I think you have to acknowledge it. You have you have to be like there's a phrase that I see tossed around on the internet, like all your faves are problematic, right? And because it's really hard to avoid it, I think. But I think the number one thing is you have to be able to even if it's something that you really love and it's you're passionate about and you think it does so much good, you still have to be able to just set aside that part of yourself when someone is actually this game hurt me deeply in a deep way. I think a great example, I was thinking about what you were saying, or what you had said about this is problematic, because definitely for me, the game that got me into games and that will always that memory, because I'm a trans woman. And this is so problematic. The one that really did it for me, but was in that part of Final Fantasy VII where you're Cloud and you, if you get all the right items, you can pass as a woman.
Yeah.
And that's
I've never even thought about that. Wow. Yeah.
It just goes over your head when you're playing it until years later.
But for me, in that moment, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I could do that every day.
The legend was born.
And it was really a huge moment for me, and it was it actually ended up being a really positive experience in games. Games, and JRPGs I always sort of connected with. And people would make fun of them. They're like, oh, where all the guys look like girls, and I'm like, yeah. And but it is very problematic. And I was talking with another trans friend of mine who's into games, and she was like, that was the worst moment for me.
Really?
She just hated it. I mean, she was she thought that it was making fun of it. It touched on sex work stereotypes for trans women, and it just it was one of those things where when you get to a point in the game, and then she had played it later. I was in middle school when I played it, but she played it. I think it was just a few years ago for the first time when they did the PC release, and even though there's I was like, no, but it was so good for me. When I was talking to her, I just had to be no, I can really see that, and I can really appreciate that. I really think that as a game developer myself, this is why this has become a huge driving force in my own personal motivations for creating games. I think making new games with great representation and those types of things, really good games that are at least strive to not be problematic. I think it's hard. It's life is hard, so it's hard to do that. We're not going to make it there's nothing going to be problematic in our game, is a bold statement.
Just make puzzle games.
Just make
threes.
Yeah.
Abstract form.
I think it's a really good question, and I think there's two parts to it too as well. There's the issue of whenever you really love something, there's something with you identifying with it. So in a way, like for example, Metal Gear Solid, if you go back and play the first one, is just rife with like sexism, and then you find out at one point that Meryl gets raped, and they just make it like it's just completely like, yeah, did someone gasp? Yeah, it happens. It happens. It's so weird, and they gloss it. It's just crazy. But I love it. Like I said, I love that game. Like it's nostalgia. It's my brother, like bonding with my brother. It's all these things, and so there's a part of your brain that goes like, am I bad for liking this game? There's like a part of you that can be like, is that like, it feels almost like, even though it's not an attack on you at all, it's like, well, I like this game, so does that mean that I suck because I like this game that's problematic? But it's really not. Like, I think you made a very good point that making anything that's just 100% not problematic is actually impossible. So it's just sort of treating your media with the sense of like, you can really like something and it can still have problems. It's like humans. Like, literally no one's perfect, so it's like you still like the people that you like even though they are not perfect. Yeah, I think it's just sort of removing the identity thing from, because I think people sometimes have a knee-jerk reaction when we talk about games a lot too, especially in terms of gender representation. There's this knee-jerk reaction of like, well, I'm not sexist and I like this game, so stop talking about it. But it's not like, we're not saying you're sexist, man. It's like the game sucks in that way. Even like Doctor Who, that episode I mentioned is an amazing episode. Preceding that episode by like 2 episodes is an episode about farting aliens, and it's awful. It's just terrible.
Oh.
Yeah, it's awful. It's atrocious. It's like one of the worst things I've ever seen. It's not offensive, it's just bad. It's offensively bad. But I still love the show. So it's one of those things where it's like removing identity from the games that you play and making it like, the game is an extension of, the game is a reflection of things that I like, but it's not necessarily a reflection of the things that I believe. Because yeah, there are a million shows that exist and a million games that exist, and all of them have problems, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're just awful, horrible games, but it does mean that there are things within them that need to be addressed.
The thing that I always thought of, if it has a positive impact for you, screw what other people say. It helps you get better. If they don't like it, so be it. That's what I would say.
Did you have something?
Yeah. I just wanted to say thanks for coming and sharing your story. It was really fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. So in terms of gender equality, I was just kind of curious if you could share a little bit of like your heroes or people who are really doing a lot of activism right now, or some groups, because I've been to GDC before and learning about like the Serious Game Track and you know just people who are advocating for just accessibility and stuff. In terms of the one GDC I saw, that there was a journalist rant, and there was a woman, I can't remember her name, but she was the first one I've ever seen kind of, plug on just basically get on everybody about the maturity level of games in general in this gender equality issue. And so that was 6-7 years ago, but since then, have you, is there a bigger group of it, and is there, I heard Half the Sky. That sounded like it was a wonderful book that was talking about if women were able to support each other and just speak up, they represent half the world, and Half the Sky could be, part of this community.
Right.
That I don't know how that did as an app. It was kind of in the games for help genre, and it was a mobile thing. But is there anything like that you'd care to share?
Yeah, there are lots of really amazing women that are doing really important work in the space. Obvious ones are like Lee Alexander and Anita Sarkeesian. There's also Kara Ellison is a really wonderful games journalist that writes about gender a lot. I don't think Maddie Bryce writes as much, but now, because of all the Gamergate stuff that happened, but she had some really amazing, she's a trans woman, she had some really amazing articles that she wrote about that experience. Brenda Romero is a game developer that's been in the industry for so many years, and she always hosts a panel called One Reason to Be at GDC, which will have a panel of women developers and journalists talking about why they're still in the industry, despite how people can be very hostile. From outside the industry, actually one of my colleagues, I've done a couple of GDC talks with her, is fantastic. She works mostly with kids, but her name's Rosalind Weisman. And she's just an advocate, and she's one of the few educators that I've met that treats games as an important part of children's lives rather than a horrible thing to be excised from the universe. And she's really great. anyone else that knows anyone else can feel free to say.
I missed the second one. You said Leah Alexander,
Kara Allison.
Allison.
Anita Sarkeesian is doing a lot of, she has a whole series right now called Tropes versus Women in Video Games. That's like a really in-depth dissection of games and how females, I think it's mostly just women. Yeah, how women are represented in games.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so.
I think the problem with, I'm sorry.
Oh no, I just want to say thanks.
I have a lot of respect for Anita, and the issue, and this is just not an issue, it's her fault, is she has a topic, like, one of my favorite videos of hers was how when women are shown being killed in games, it tends to be in a very almost sexual way.
Mm-hmm.
And what the thing was, and I feel like if she could fix this, it would make it better. She focuses on that, but then she keeps talking, and the way she talks, she gives so much information, which then the people take the one thing she said had nothing to do, maybe has said something to do, and they focus on that as that what she meant. Like, people took that video and meant that she hates that women are killed in games.
Right.
And it's kind of a problem where I feel like the way she talks and the way she presents so much information that people take something she said and then focus on that instead of focusing on the point that she did.
Well, it's difficult because I think folks that do that are generally just trying to find a way to undermine
That's a
their
good point.
point.
That's a
You
good
know.
point.
Straw man argument, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, yeah.
They're just like do that one, and then they focus. Yeah.
I mean, off of that, I remember like in my childhood, I was reading. I can't remember which game magazine it was. Maybe I don't know. I'm not gonna name names here, but there was an ad for a Hitman game, and like they had a naked woman in a bathtub with a bullet hole through her head, and the like tagline was "executed beautifully."
Yeah.
And I was like, even as like a child, like as like a 12-year-old boy, I was like, that's messed up.
The guy who designed that's probably going, yeah, I did a good job. I'm like, oh.
Executed beautifully. That's a great plan.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
that is horrible.
Yeah, it's gnarly. There's some gnarly shit there, guys.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yup. I remember exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, it's really messed up. Yeah.
Backing up a little bit, Offworld is a kind of, it used to be a going site, and now it is again. But it's focusing on minority voices in games. And Lee and, I forget the other group, Laura, I forget her last name.
I forget her last name too.
Are both people that write there a lot.
Yeah, Offworld's a great new site for minority folks. Yeah.
So kind of, well, I don't want to detract. Okay, what I wanted to ask is going to be, okay.
Say stuff.
I wanted to talk about your voice acting career.
Sure.
Mostly because you were Tiny Tina,
Mm-hmm.
and I loved Borderlands 2. And in fact, "Shawty, you the best, you do you the best" is a phrase me and my friends say quite often. But props to you on that. What was it like to break into voice acting? I don't know, because the club that we run, we're trying to find more people who are interested in voice acting, just in general. Like, coming from wherever they like, programming or artists or whatever, get them interested in voice acting because it's like a big part of it. And you are a fantastic voice actor. You do.
Well, thank you.
You voice in something, a cartoon like Adventure Time, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you're in a lot of cool shit. Stuff. Cool stuff. I don't know. Like, what was it like to start voice acting and do that kind of stuff? I don't know.
Yeah. I'm just curious, is anyone in here interested in voice acting?
Yeah, I like it. I've done it.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So I got every voice actor that I know has a different I got started story. It's like that kind of field. There's never one way to do it really. Like with games, you just you make a game. That kind of which is like very hyper simplified version of that. But with voice acting, you kind of need to be in someone else's thing. So it's a more circuitous route to get into that realm. But as in everything in my life, all roads lead back to Hey Ash. So Anthony and I did Hey Ash. He got hired at Gearbox to write Borderlands 2.
Did he do? Somebody said he did all the dialogue for that entirely. Is that true?
Yeah, apart from maybe 1 or 2 missions. Yeah, he did everything.
I remember him talking about the Shooty McFace
Yes.
side quest and how that was trouble for him. But sorry, I got sidetracked.
Oh, no worries. And I ended up auditioning for Tiny to get it and got it. And then from there, it was actually like a really random thing. Like I worked at Valve for like a hot second. Yeah, I know. I worked there for like a little bit. I went to work on something and then it got canceled and I was like, well, I guess I'll go home. But when I was there, someone from Nickelodeon came to just like see Valve because he liked video games. And then Eric Wolpaw, who was one of the writers on Portal, who's a total sweetheart, was like, hey, you should put Ashly in one of your shows. He just did that. And the guy was like, oh, I'll get her a general audition at Nickelodeon. And like totally was legit about it. And I was like, okay. So I got a general audition. And the casting director ended up liking me, so he sent my name out to some agencies, and then I got an agent, and then et cetera, et cetera. So work at Valve for 6 months, and then hopefully like a Nickelodeon person. No, it's just a really random way that it's going to happen. So pretty much the best you can do is put yourself out there. I'll just do a really quick primer because there's some folks in here that are interested in voice acting. Basically, what you want to do is find like 10 to 12 voices that are very distinct from one another that you can consistently do. So if you can only nail that one line in a Scottish accent, then you probably shouldn't put it on your reel, because if you get cast for that voice and you go in and you can't do any of the other lines, they're going to be pissed at you. So find 10 to 12 distinct voices that you can reliably do. Make a reel, even if it's a crappy reel. Listen to, there are lots of, like there's a site called VoiceBank, I think it's .net, that you can go and listen to reels. There are even agency websites, so like I know SBV and even my agency, you can go in and just look at their roster of people and click on their names and it'll play you their reel. And you'll notice that reels have like sound effects and music in the background of between all the voices, and they kind of fade in and out. And so you want to make a reel. And then when you're really just starting out, the great thing to do is, especially if you want to get into games voiceover, is you can start going on to like the Game Maker forums, or if there, I don't know, I'm assuming there's like a indie game developer subreddit or something, and kind of go on and be like, hey, I'm a voice actor, so if you need any voice acting, I'm your guy, and then put up your reel. And for a while, you'll probably have to work for free, unfortunately, because that's how it works, because there's a million people trying to get into the voice acting world. But yeah, that's a good way to get started. And if you're really, really serious about voice acting, as of right now, there are 2 places to do it, New York and LA. So if you get to the point, I know. Yeah. Although there are some, like, you could probably get your feet wet. Is that a thing? Is that a phrase? Your toes wet?
Dip your toes.
Dip your toes in something,
Sink
right?
your teeth into it.
Get your feet wet. Get your feet wet. Okay. By doing, you can probably record certain indie games remotely, but then you'll have to get like a decent mic setup and stuff. But yeah, just sort of finding your voices. I actually heard one voice actor gave a really kind of a cool way of finding a voice, is that if you like SNES games with story that don't have voice acting, then you can start like playing a game, like if you want to play like an old Final Fantasy, and just start making voices for the characters as you're playing. You'll sound crazy if you have roommates, but whatever, it's fine. You're gonna sound crazy anyway, probably at some point. But yeah, just start making different voices. Like, I wonder what Celeste sounds like versus another character from Final Fantasy VI. I forget all of their names. But yeah.
I'm sorry, there's a great documentary on Netflix called I Know That Voice, and it's all about voice acting. You go over quite a bit about what to do to get in the industry. It has all the voice actors that make up almost all of the voices you ever hear. Alec Bloom, Jennifer Hale. Jennifer Hale's in every video game.
Who is darling, by the way.
I heard she's so sweet.
She's super sweet.
But yeah, and it's a great documentary on Netflix called I Know That Voice. So you can find it online. It's really, really a fun one if you're into voice acting. So I definitely recommend that.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, another recommendation I have is I'm really big into like the Bethesda mod community, and like they're constantly.
Oh yeah, they're always looking for voices, right?
Yeah, they're always looking for voices because people are trying to make like their own like DLC for the games and stuff like that. They're always looking for people who don't do voices for different characters.
Yeah, that's smart.
So that might be a good place to try and get your feet wet too.
Yeah.
Also, as few Midwestern conventions as there are, if you go to them and you talk to students, just ask them if they want voice. Like, ask them if they want anything. That doesn't even like apply to voice acting necessarily. Because like I've worked on projects because I went to like Midwest Game Developers Summit and I was like, this is cool. I write, so I'd like to write for you. And they're like, oh, okay. And then I have a credit in a game. Like,
yeah.
So ask students, ask developers, and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's also lots of college people have animation departments potentially. So there's lots of animation students that are looking for voice actors for their stuff that they're working on. You're a voice.
I need voice actors.
You need. Oh, there you go. So if you're interested, you should. What's your name?
Adia.
Adia, come talk to Adia after this.
What's your project?
I make visual novels. So.
Oh, sweet.
Nice.
That's really dope. Yeah, talk to Adia. Boom. Connection made.
That's why you go to these things.
Yes.
What about singing? Because I noticed on Adventure Time you actually had a bit where you were singing.
Yes.
Do you have experience on that then too, or is it just something that's kind of?
Actually, when I was a kid, I thought that I was going to be a singer first and foremost. But now I sing sometimes for things occasionally. But I mean, and I don't have like formal training. I've been in choir since I was like in elementary school. From elementary school all the way through high school, I was in choir, and now I will sing for like projects like that, or there are other games that require like bits of singing here and there that I've done. But yeah, I don't have any. Actually, I don't have any formal training in voice acting either. I don't really have any formal training. Don't tell anyone.
Talking and eating.
Yeah, I am. Oh my God, pro PhD in talking and eating. Is there? I don't know if y'all have stuff to rush off to as well. I forget how long it's supposed to go until 1.
Yeah.
Oh, so much time. Oh my God.
Yeah, and the voice acting is really interesting because I'm really into filmmaking. I started a filmmaking club at my college, and I'm really into just telling stories. I love to write stories, write scripts and stuff. And my sister actually, I got a lot of experience because my sister is actually an actress out in Los Angeles, and she's been out there for how many years now? And it's just really starting to pick up now. So if anybody hear of it's a pilot right now called Joe Time. My sister's in that.
Nice.
It's picked up. Watch out for it. It's probably the biggest opportunity she's ever had, and I can tell you that there's always an oversaturation of people going into that industry, but not that much. There's not a big population of people that are committed enough to keep at it. So I can tell you, most people that go out to Los Angeles to go into acting quit after a couple years. No, they look for the people who are dedicated. My sister's been out there since 2007. That's 8 years. She's been out there consistently, getting auditions all the time, and it's just starting to pick up. So if you go into voice acting, it's a tough thing to get into. Keep at it, because they're looking for the people who can do it and can keep at it.
Well, kind of jumping up what you were saying about just keeping at it. I'm a writer, which is like super hard, because with art, when you submit something, they look and go, oh, that's great, or they listen. To read a whole story,
right?
They skim it maybe, they give you maybe 5 seconds.
Right.
So I applied to maybe, oh my gosh, 50 internships over my 4-year career in college.
Wow.
The one person that responded was Blizzard, and I got it. The only person that responded. So even though I got rejected from everyone else, and it was animation studios, TV, movies, and then games. For some reason, games, they loved me. And I'm like, oh, great. You really just got to keep applying, honest to God. That's how I got in. It's amazing what internships can do for you.
Right. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm going to the technical route. I'm a 3D modeler and a programmer is what I'm going to school for, but writing is something I've done since I was really young. So it's like, hey, I can do that too.
It's nice to be an everyman too in the industry, because I know a lot of indie studios kind of want well, do you program? That's what I get a lot is, do you program? And I'm like, no, okay, see you later.
Right.
Because actually, how I got into games was I would play with my twin sister and we'd make up stories afterward, like fan fiction.
Yeah.
Sometimes act them out. That's so nerdy, but I swear to God,
dude.
act out these stories.
I'm on fanfiction.net from back in the day. I'm not going to tell any of you my screen name, but I definitely wrote
that was actually my next question.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
but
you will never know. I will burn this place to the ground before I tell you. Yeah, no, I wrote a lot of it.
I think too, every kind of position has some crossovers. So with writing, I've done writing, but I broke in game journalism. I did that for a while, and then I did research, so I published a paper, and then I went into narrative stuff. And so now when I go to people and apply for internships or whatever, it's not oh, I've been a journalist for 3 years. I've been oh, I'm a journalist, I've been researching, I've been this, I've been this. So if you can find areas to cross over in whatever your field is, it's a great way to have that kind of
makes you seem
well-rounded.
unique.
Yeah, exactly.
Because everyone's a writer, everyone's an artist.
Right.
That's sort of mentality, but people, I can sing and I can act, oh, but I can draw. That's how when my boss got into the industry, he was a storyboard artist. Right. They said I can draw, but I can also write. I'm really good at writing, and so I've always wanted to do. But I can also draw, and that's how you get in. Is you kind of you cross over a lot of professions and get in that way.
I can tell you that the best thing to do is to don't be an author, be a writer. And that means don't put your faith on that one really good story you have. Just write all the time. Write as many things as you can. Don't stop. Don't think about getting it published. Just write because you want to write. Don't be an author, be right. That's one thing that I've heard, because most people, who want to go into their head, I thought one really good story. Well, yeah, but once that gets turned down.
Yeah, and you also have to kind of learn how to write for other people too. And because if people come in and they have a game and they have a mythos and a story, and you come in and you're like, yeah, so here's my 50-page script of my story for your game, they're gonna be like, well, I kind of have a world here. So if you can learn to write with other people and design their narrative and help them do that, I think that's super valuable.
Did you have your?
Yeah, I just want to know with King Ash Whatcha Playin, how did you get started? What was the premise behind that? And
Yeah.
And also, well, it's just that show is probably one of the craziest shows I've seen. Some of the stuff that goes on, I think my favorite episode is the assassination episode.
Oh, nice.
Dad's trying to. I think his dad was the one that was trying to kill him.
Yeah.
That was probably my favorite episode.
Really?
Just because it was just well, it was just crazy. I don't know what's going on, but I love it. And my other question is with that was primarily a YouTube, right? Because I know I've seen it on other platforms.
It started on GameTrailers.com.
Okay.
Yeah, so it started there, and then GameTrailers kind of is, I don't know what's happening. We're not really on there anymore.
I mean, how did you get that going then? How did you get it with GameTrailers from the start?
Right. So Anthony used to work for Destructoid.
Okay.
So he was the features editor, I believe, and we started doing Hey Ash actually because he originally wanted to do a documentary about indie games.
Okay.
So he got this camera and he wanted to learn how to use it. So he was like, I'll just do weird sketch videos with Ash to learn how to use the camera, and then I'll go and make this indie documentary. And so I think we made 3 or 4 episodes and put them on Destructoid initially, and people seemed to respond well to them. And so Nero, the owner of Destructoid, was like, hey, I think I can shop this around for you guys and find a place that might be able to pay you to do this a little bit. So he talked to different people and reached out to game trailers, and there was this dude named Jeremy Hoffman, who's a total sweetheart, who saw it and really pushed for us. But they were unsure, so we had to put a Hey Ash episode in the user videos, and then if it got enough of a good reception and enough people watched it, then they would bring us on for a full thing. It was we had to get it tested first. So thankfully, I think we did the BioShock one, and thankfully enough people thought it was funny and liked it that they picked us up for a real thing. And we got paid a little bit to do Hey Ash, but the main thing that was amazing about being on GameTrailers was that they have a built-in audience, and so I think without GameTrailers, we could have easily gotten lost in the sea of YouTube. So yeah, that's kind of how it went down.
Is there any chance we'll see any more?
Yes.
Cool. That's
Hopefully
great news.
soon. Hopefully soon. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to know what character you are in Adventure Time.
In Adventure Time, I'm a few characters. There's one episode where I'm the main guest star character. If you've seen the episode Breezy.
What happens in it?
There's a bee.
Oh.
And Finn's, spoilers, Finn has a flower instead of his arm. Yeah, and then there's a bee that's obsessed with the flower, and the bee is me. And since then I've done some if they have a bunch of random female parts that they need to fill, then I'll come in and do those voices.
And also
Are you sure?
I had it in my mind, but after that.
Okay, well if it comes back up.
My life right there. All the time.
Yeah.
Do you think that kind of going in a little bit more your brother was not, it wasn't intended to be a big thing. Do you think that kind of low pressure situation aided the early
That's interesting.
episodes? You were trying to make this huge thing.
Yeah, the nice thing about, I guess in a way, because we weren't we gotta get big on YouTube. You know, we weren't like, oh man, we gotta find something that's gonna be a viral hit. We just sort of did stuff that we thought was funny, which, I mean, I don't think Hey Ash is ever going to be like millions and millions of views because we're sort of a niche comedy thing. Like, there are people that are either, like, there are people that hate Hey Ash, like they just think it's so stupid. So we have like appeal on a broad scale, but not like so broad that we're gonna get like millions and millions of hits on any of our videos. But I think that's good because we found the tone and the voice that we wanted to have, and we put that out, and people responded to it. And I think the difficulty, and it just doesn't seem fun to me, honestly, is that I think sometimes people are chasing hits, they're chasing the viral thing. Like, what things can we do to ensure that we're going to get the most views? But then it just doesn't seem like you're just like smashing stuff together. You're not really making something that you believe in and like and want to put out in the world. It's kind of like you're just hoping that you can fit enough things together that it hits and then people watch it. Which, I mean, you ideally want people to watch your stuff, but I think coming at it from a place of like, what do I think is funny, what do I want to see, is going to resonate with people more than, I wonder if Batman fought Spider-Man, fought a cat, fought, you know, like, just to try to get as many views as you can.
If you try to make something viral, it generally doesn't work. You try, go out and say, I want to make a viral video. Generally, it doesn't work.
I don't know other cases where it really backfired. Like, what was the Bill Cosby one where it just became about?
It was
like,
make a meme, I think, .com or something. You could
I don't
make
think
a
I
meme
heard
of Bill
about this.
Cosby.
And
but then-
yeah.
yeah.
You didn't hear?
Uh-uh.
Oh yeah, so I don't remember exactly what. Yeah, but it was this make a meme thing.
Like they gave you like a stock image of Bill Cosby
They were like-
and the fonts and everything.
And then there was the person running his Twitter was like, use this one line, it's funny. And
Oh wait, his specific, like, his
Yeah,
media?
yeah.
Oh,
His-
what? Why did they think that wasn't going to backfire? That's so stupid.
And it's real. And well, and do you know what the backfire was? Like,
I assume it's all like, oh, he raped people jokes.
Yeah, well, yeah, and like actually, like a ton of people were coming forward by using that.
Oh,
meme,
really?
Like, being like, you know, who did this to me, and like.
Oh my god, wow.
And yeah, and actually.
That's kind of amazing that they co-opted it though.
Right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right.
It's almost like it was his plan.
Yeah.
That's, oh man. I don't know who must be running his PR team that's like, Bill, wear this weird satiny, very sexual molestery looking robe and sit in this weird thing and use a roto telephone and talk to a fake fan on air. And there's a ladder in the background. I don't know. Did y'all see that video? It was ridiculous. Anyway.
How did you, I might shift gears here, but I love Rocket Jump. Like, back when I used to I watched Freddie Wong videos all the time. I was a huge fan of his videos. I thought they were hysterical. How'd you get involved in Rocket Jump?
Hey Ash. So we did a video with Freddie as part of this like Nintendo ambassador thing. So
Was it Guerrilla Warfare?
Yeah, Guerrilla. Yeah,
That's
that
right.
one was a collaboration with Rocket Jump, or Freddie, I guess specifically, and that's how we met him. And then he's just an awesome guy, so we all sort of became friends. And then they were starting to do this really big hiring push.
Yeah.
And so Freddie was just like, "You write, right?" And I was like, "Sure do." And then that was kind of it.
Did you act at all in Rocket Jump, or mostly just a writer?
Yeah, I acted as well.
'Cause I actually, I say I'm a huge fan. I actually haven't caught up because I've been so busy with school. I have to catch up on their videos, but
Right.
I think like Rocket Jump is something where like it just blew my mind. They're like, oh my god, these people just make these videos and they get paid for it. Like,
Right.
I thought, man, if I ever like ended up meeting them or working with them on anything at all, that would be like a dream come true. But because I love making videos and I love making film and stuff, it's something I wanted to get into, doing filmmaking, just because I'm a storyteller. Like whether it comes to video games or books or scripts or movies, I just like to tell stories. And I feel like I have stories that are worthy to tell, and I have like a huge list of things that I would love to sit down and write once I get, I'm not crowded by school this summer hopefully.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's why I just want to get up there and do that kind of thing, is make those kinds of videos and just do that and have fun with it, because those guys just seem like they're having such a freaking good time doing all that.
Yeah, they're really good guys.
Are there any franchises that you would just love to work for but haven't had the chance to get into?
Oh man, I mean, I would love to. Mass Effect is probably my favorite gaming franchise, and Mass Effect 2 is one of my favorite games of all time.
Oh, yeah.
2?
So, 2, yeah. Which one were you expecting? 3?
I like 3. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah, I like 3 too.
Yeah.
Bring it up.
Yeah, it was
Come
good.
on.
It was great. It was great. It
No,
was
I
well-written.
loved 3. Like, you can say what you want about the ending. I cried like most of it.
Same.
Yeah, it was great. I got
But,
teary.
That was
yeah.
like another 6
And I did a
in
lot
the
of that.
morning.
I did a lot of decisions I regretted in 2. Maybe with that, so I didn't like 2. Like, it all came to bite me in the butt. in 3.
Oh,
So
I
it's like,
see,
you know,
yeah.
2 just-
I didn't really care about the ending. I was just annoyed that we didn't actually get to see a
Spoiler
Tom's
days.
face.
Spoiler days.
Oh.
Yeah, not everyone has played yet.
Well, it's been a couple years, but you get to see her face. You didn't. And that really kind of
Yeah.
pissed me off. Oh, you get a little stock image photo that people have actually found the photo online that they just photoshopped. I want to see her face, a CG, 3D model face, and that annoyed me more than the ending ever could have. Because she was my favorite character.
Yeah, she was awesome.
No.
But yeah, Mass Effect, I guess.
Did
Being a
you
voice
do-
in Mass Effect would be great.
Do you play Dragon Age at all?
I haven't played Dragon Age because I'm not a huge fan of that style of like the Baldur's Gate, like
Sure, the fantasy.
yeah, or just like the mechanics of like the
Oh,
gameplay. Is
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
as huge
I
on.
would say Dragon Age Origins I'm trying to play through right now.
It's hard, man. I like
It's
really
kinda
want to experience the story.
It's leaving a sour taste in my mouth.
I'm debating like just watching a Let's Play or something because I wanted to see the story, but I don't like the game mechanics.
It's like an MMO.
I think they smoothed a lot of the game mechanics out in Inquisition. But
Yeah.
I definitely know because I feel like I came to the first one kind of late,
Mhm.
and I just felt like I was just slogging it through.
Yeah.
And any class but mage seems like really
Pointless.
pointless.
Maybe that's why I was playing like a warrior or something, and I was like, this is just not.
Right? Yeah, I don't know a lot of people who played warriors or rogues and are like, oh no, it's really great. I like
Yeah.
warriors.
You were like on the outside of every. You were like, what? I didn't see the problem. That's funny. Did you remember your question?
Yeah.
Cool.
Do you ever work with Quarter Digital?
Yes. For like a weird thing. I like posted this thing for Geek and Sundry where they like raced cars.
Oh, yeah.
Ego and Sam raced cars, and I like hosted like that episode.
Like they crash your cardboard and like build them and stuff?
No, it was actually it was like a weird sort
yeah.
of like reality thing on YouTube where they literally raced like actual racing cars,
Yeah.
and then they were like competing for the best time. So I like hosted that. I was like, "Welcome to Unplugged. These people are gonna race cars, vroom vroom," and that was pretty cool. I didn't do like a thing with them, but like I hosted the show that they were in.
Their LAN parties with rocket jumpers, like some of my favorite
Yeah,
videos ever.
and they do stuff like rocket jump, but they just
With
made
their
a
visual
movie.
effects and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they just made a movie.
Oh, they made a movie?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
A few months ago.
Oh wow, is it good?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay.
So it's not like one of those with the gold red box you get. It's
Right.
not
Online.
that big.
Online, yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. You had Adrian?
I was just gonna mention, like, for people who don't want to play like the earlier games, I know like they did Dragon Age the Keep, and even if you haven't like played the former games, you can just go and do like all the choices, and then you can
That you would've
get
done.
the voice actor
Right.
for Varric will come up and he'll like narrate the whole entire thing. And
Oh, really?
He has an awesome voice, so it's kind
Okay.
of like a nice way. Like if you played it, you can kind of like recap the whole
They
thing.
did that Mass Effect
And if
too.
you haven't, yeah, they did that in comic book form with Mass Effect as well.
Right.
So like if you haven't played it, you can just get like the short like cap of all the important moments.
The thing that makes me nervous about that is that, yeah, I know they did it for Mass Effect, and I played through all of the Mass Effect games, and I found out, because I keep trying to convince people to play it, but the first one is like, it's also kind of a slog in terms of
Yeah.
the mechanics.
Well,
So I was like, well, you can do the comic, but then I realized you don't ever meet Rex if you do the comic. And I was like, and I can't in good conscience be like, never meet Rex. I just can't do it. I would rather you play a 40-hour game that has really complicated and kind of awful mechanics.
It's straightforward RPG.
To meet one character, but
It's pretty
I know.
straightforward RPG.
it's just like I think it's the problem is because Rex is no, is it Rex's loyalty or Ashly's loyalty? No, I'm sorry, it's not even that. It's whether or not you're Paragon or Renegade determines whether or not Rex dies in the first game.
Yeah.
Like if you're enough one or the other.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think there must be something with that where they couldn't do that in comic book form, I guess. So I guess it makes the decision too complicated, so they just took him out. but that hurts my heart because I love Rex, so I can't really.
Rex is the only guy that in the beginning of Mass Effect 2 is happy to see you. Everybody else is like, oh, Shepard, you're alive. Oh, but you were Cerberus. Grr, we're angry. And Rex is all like, Shepard! And you're like,
what's up, man?
It's like, oh, what's up? You want to pair some spells?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rex is great.
Rex for life.
Is there anyone in your work that you've met that you've just been like super starstruck?
Trying to remember.
Or have had people be super starstruck by you?
If they have, I'm like, it's not a word. Don't waste it on me, man. It's not. I'm trying to think. I was really nervous to meet Jennifer Hale because obviously Metal Gear Solid, I loved, and she was Naomi in that game. So
female Shepard.
And yeah, obviously she's female Shepard.
Right.
She's she's impeccable in that game. So I was actually on a panel with her, and I found out she was going to be on it, and I was like, oh no. But she's so warm and lovely that you meet her and she's like, hi, and you felt like you've known her forever, and so my nervousness went away as soon as I met her. The only other time that I could think of is that I met Tim Schafer once and I totally made an ass of myself, but that's fine. No. I'm sorry.
His name's
He is this
Psychonaut. Gotcha.
And Day of the Tentacle and like Monkey Island, he's fantastic. Day of the Tentacle was like one of my favorite games when I was a kid.
When I play video games, it's always fun. I like to play a game. Anytime I play a new game, I'm like, okay, where am I going to hear Jennifer Hale and where am I going to hear Alec Bloom?
Right.
Or is it Steve Bloom?
Steve Bloom.
Steve Bloom. I'm awful with names. Steve Bloom. Where am I going to hear Jennifer Hale? Where am I going to hear Steve Bloom?
Yeah.
Because they always pop up. Most
Yeah.
random points in games. So
Yeah, they're all over the place.
I always like to try and figure out where they are.
Yeah, they're both really great. Yes.
Can you talk about Life is Strange? Because like I played one episode of that and I was like, this is the best game I've ever played. Like,
Oh,
it was so good. Yeah,
I was like blown away.
It was so good.
Oh, I'm glad you guys liked it. Life is Strange. Does anyone here not know what Life is Strange is? It's an no, you're not. It's an episodic game by Don't Nod Studios, and it's sort of like they're kind of going for like the tone and the feel of like an indie movie. But the protagonist is this girl named Max, and I play Chloe, her best friend. And Max learns that she can rewind time. So it's pretty much like, it's sort of like in the same vein as like a Telltale game where you can, you make different sorts of choices that determine where the story goes, but because of the rewind mechanic, if you are like, I don't really like how the choice turned out, then you can rewind and try it a different way. Yeah, so it's just sort of, right now it's about like the mysteries of the town that they're in, and suspense and murder, and I'm angsty, and etc. But yeah, it's been super fun working on it. The developers are awesome. They're very passionate people. They're really excited about the game, obviously. And voice acting for it has been great because it's very different than your typical game for many reasons. There's 2 female protagonists, which is awesome. The sessions that I have, like a lot of sessions for video games will inevitably involve screaming and death sounds and grunts and punches and that kind of thing. But for Life is Strange, it's all just dialogue stuff. So I've done a lot of recording with the woman that plays Max, named Hannah. So we've done a lot of recording together in the booth, which has been really fun. Yeah, is there anything specific that you want to talk about?
Not really, just
Okay.
it's just awesome. And you guys should play it.
Yeah,
really
episode
cool.
2's out now.
Yeah, like it's
played
just
it like this weekend.
It's just really like the writing is great, like the level design is impeccable, like the way they tell stories is insane. It's so good.
I'm glad you like it. That's awesome to hear.
I actually had no idea you played Chloe.
Yeah, I didn't either. Yeah, I didn't either. And then I like the first episode, I'm like, God, that was so good. Ashly Burch. Exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
Actually, no, I just remembered that game, but once again, I did not know that you remembered that. That's pretty cool.
I really do like Chloe's character.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
But yeah, I didn't know
He says
anything
you shot
specific.
yourself
Sorry.
at one
just-
point. Right?
Oh yeah, I do shoot myself all the time. Yeah, there's like a target practice point, and if I shoot the wrong thing, then it ricochets, and I shoot myself. And she's like, ah!
Rewind!
Yeah. Did you ever hear that?
Oh, I was going to say, did you have any input in the design of Chloe's vehicle or her room? Because there's like tons of video game references and stuff all over. It kind of feels like something you'd have here.
No, actually, I didn't have any input on that, but it makes sense in a way.
So her character fit you from what I've seen you do so much. It's like, like did they design it not knowing who they're going to voice it at first?
Yeah, actually, when I got the audition side, it already had concept art of Chloe at the top. So they knew what she was going to look like, and they knew her place in the story and everything. But actually, the developers at Donut, some of the people on the team like Hey Ash. So they got my audition, and they were like, oh, it's her! So Hey Ash has also helped with that, because people will maybe know me from the show. So if I submit an audition, then they might recognize my name. So.
Do you do a different voice? Do you do your normal voice?
Chloe's kind of just this voice, but with more angst. She's a teenager.
Do you do your voices separate from the other people doing their voices? Do you do them at the same time?
It depends. So, oftentimes for more emotional scenes, the woman that plays Max, her name's Hannah. So for more emotional scenes between Max and Chloe, we'll be in the booth together. But for more incidental, like, Max, you should go do this thing, or why don't you go do this thing, or like more, you know, like just sort of practical, Max doesn't know what to do, give her input lines, I'll do by myself. And then also the first session I did with the actor that plays my stepdad, because it's the scene with us is very shouty, angry, so we playing off each other in the booth, which is great.
What's the gameplay of that game? What kind of game?
It's Telltale.
It's kind of like an event. It feels weird calling it an adventure game because it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, has anyone coined a new?
I think people have been calling them like narrative adventure games or something like that.
Okay.
Like narrative-driven adventure.
It's not made by Telltale though.
No.
It's just the style.
It's the same sort of style.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's some other really great voice acting we should be paying attention to?
Other voice actors?
Yeah, what's something you were just like, oh shit, that was awesome.
Every voice in Mass Effect, pretty much.
Yes.
The games that have really struck me with how amazing the voice acting is are the Mass Effect series, The Walking Dead, the first season. I haven't played the second season, but I thought the first season had really, really good voice acting. I'm trying to think. Those are the ones that come to mind right now. Oh, Last of Us, obviously.
Absolutely.
That's almost a given. I feel like I don't even have to mention that. Those are the ones that come to mind right now. In terms of indie studios, it's hard to think of indie studios that use voice acting. I think both of the actors in Gone Home did a good job.
Yes. Gone Home. Wait, both the actors?
Bastion.
Well, one of my friends is one of the other actors, but the first, her name's Sarah O'Malley. She's a great voice actor. She's the player character. You only hear her at the beginning.
Oh, gotcha.
When she's
That's
leaving
right.
a message for her mom.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Oh yeah. What's his? Oh my God. What's his name? In Bastion and Transistor. I'm the worst.
Isn't it Danny something?
Logan.
It's not me.
He's great. His voice is awesome.
What are the worst voice acting games you've
Single them out, Ash. Single them out. The X-Files game for the PS2. They had the actual voice actors. It was bad. Yeah, it was just bad. Just like, oh, Mulder, you okay? Yeah, I'm fine.
It's like the game equivalent of Tommy Wiseau's.
Right? Yes.
You know, even voice acting that like isn't quite on the mark is still fun. You know.
Yeah.
But the thing that I always remember is when I was a kid playing the House of Dead arcade game. Because every line that the boss said was like a question when it shouldn't have been. Like, suffer like G did? Like, what is it? Are you asking me something or are you saying? I guess the one.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be the worst voice acting, but like the dumbest or like, stupidest like answer. Like, how are you? I have no idea.
Jason!
Has anyone played Metal Wolf Chaos? You get it. If you ever get a chance, just look at Metal Wolf Chaos. It's very poorly translated English that is brilliant.
It's Metal Gear Solid if it wasn't serious in any or pretending to be serious and patriotic as all hell.
Yeah, it's like
that's
hyper
Metal
patriotic.
Gear. That's
Yeah,
Metal
I was gonna say
Gear.
Metal Gear's not that serious.
No.
Yeah.
But I mean, even getting rid of all the serious like fake tones.
Yeah, the fake
I mean,
tones, yeah.
That's funny. Do you have anything you do to get into any of your voices? Like before you do them, I don't know, jumping jacks or a word that gets you into each voice or anything?
Usually, so for the most part, actually, I'm surprised that I most often get cast as my natural voice, or like a younger girl. But for the most part, the only character that I've played that I have had to consistently go back for sessions for is Tiny Tina, and
The voice is so good.
thank you. And so the one thing that I'll say to the one thing I'll say to get into voice, so I know how to go there, is
Mushy Snuggle Bites is my main squeeze.
That's great. Do you do anything when you're doing that voice? Do you have any sort of like? Because I remember watching I Know That Voice. Have you seen that documentary?
I actually haven't. I need to watch it.
It's a great one if you're into voice acting. But a lot of actors talk about how some of them do physical things to help them get in the voice. Like one guy, he always goes like this when he's doing his voice. Do you have any sort of like physical thing that you do?
Oh yeah, I'm all over the place in the booth.
Yeah.
I can't not gesture.
Yeah.
When I'm Tina, I like do a lot of like, I don't know, my arms are just wiggling all over the place. Huh?
The character does
That was
that.
good.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I'll kind of, that was good. Yeah, so I'll kind of do like a lot of like gestury, like very big, grand gestures as Tina. For Chloe, I'm more, but my stance is like my posture is a lot different when I'm playing Chloe. It'll be more like apathetic, like slouched. Sometimes I'll like just like throw, because a lot of her shit is like throwing shit away. So it'll be like you know, that kind of thing. If I'm playing like a really like peppy like anime type character, like I have to do this a lot because I have to get myself into the energy of what they're saying. So it's a lot of like this. So I leave those sessions like kind of exhausted. But yeah, everything is. So I think so much of voice acting is also physical.
Absolutely.
You kind of can't just be like standing in the booth. At least not for me. I have to be like
In that documentary, they go over that a lot. Some people have really interesting ways of getting their voice out there.
Mhm.
Like the guy was talking about how whenever he did Yogi Bear, his chest was always out like this. It was like, but,
yeah, totally.
But yeah, it's a really great documentary. They do talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
I recommend you watch it.
Yeah, I've been meaning to actually.
Yeah,
I need to.
it's great.
It's a good one.
My favorite was one of the guy does a character and he always has his cheek out like this to get
Oh,
the,
really?
like, bubbly sound. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Bubbly sound.
That's
yeah.
funny.
You suggested voice actors have like 10 to 12 different voices. Like, what are some of your different ones that you just have to rely on, I guess?
I can just play you guys my reel.
I'm gonna go look up your reel because I'm actually curious.
Oh yeah. Oh man, put me on the spot. Well, I have my Tina voice. I have like variations of little girl voices. So there's like,
Hey mom, how are you? Like a sweeter, like I'm a little girl. Like maybe I wanted, I don't know. Then there's more like just sort of, I'm just annoyed. Like why are you doing that all the time? Or there's like a little boy. I don't know. This is my little boy voice, not very good. My better one, but it's just sort of raspy. Hey, I'm a little boy.
That sounds like Tara Stone's little boy voice.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of the way that I get the little boy voice. Then there are accents, which.
If I ever became a voice actor, it'd be accents. I love accents.
Weirdly, the one that I can most reliably do, for some reason, is like a little Cockney child, and I don't know why. It's harder for me to do an adult Cockney.
But when I'm doing this, it's so much easier to talk like this when I'm like a kid. I don't know why, but if I do it as an adult, it's a little bit harder. It sounds a little bit less legit. But if I'm a little girl, it don't matter.
That's like a Fable voice right there.
So those are some of my voices.
That's hysterical.
Like Jack and Scarlet.
Oh yeah? Yeah, that's true, because she's British, right?
Yeah.
She's voiced, the fun fact, the woman that voices Colleen, or that voices Scarlet, her name's Colleen, is also Lilith and Tannis?
Yeah.
Yes, she's all of those voices.
Were you in the preschool?
I am a hidden though.
Oh.
You have to play at least twice to hear me.
Because I know that.
I played it 2 times.
Oh really? Then I don't know what's wrong with it. If you go through game again, you should get like a narration periodically from me and Brick.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll like pop in and like say stuff sometimes with Brick.
Because
it's like almost like we're Mystery Science 3.
Oh yeah.
Theater 3000.
Like at the beginning you talk.
Yeah, that's pretty much as much as I'm in.
Because Tiny Tina's not in pre-sequel.
No, she's not. But it's almost like we're watching the game being played and we'll like say quips.
Yeah.
I've heard from this guy that Tiny Tina's that Dungeons Dragons DLC was like oh my gosh, it's so good.
Thanks, yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Sure.
Was that did your brother write that?
Yeah, he did.
Have you played the DLC?
Yeah, I
You have?
have all of them. Yeah.
Have you played Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragons?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've seen it, like you've seen the ending of it? So we can talk about it without ruining it for you?
No, I haven't. But I did think that was a brilliant plot device to have within the pre-sequel, where in New Game Plus it's like, no, make it crazier.
Yeah. I thought that was a cool idea
explains
too.
why everything is harder.
The level design that the dungeon or that DLC was very different. So I was just running around and I was scared of like that part where you have to jump down to like a pit. Because I thought I would die. Just like jumping off the small so like you can see the ground and
right, yeah.
So you jump off and then you die. I was like, you're not trying to do that, and then like you were supposed to.
Right.
And just like I watched the video and I think I jumped down and I'm like, oh.
Oops. In Hash, Whatcha Playin, your brother always seems like the calm, quiet, intellectual kind of guy. Didn't they really like that?
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that Anthony hate them, but he's actually just very quiet and kind of shy, actually. So if you ever meet my brother and he's like, hey, he doesn't hate you, I swear. He's just this.
Oh god.
Yeah, so he's very quiet, shy.
Because I came across in the web show, and then you were just Ash. Yeah. The TF2 episode was like one of my favorite web videos ever.
Nice.
And I would for like a year after that, I was like, someone wrong game, I go, my god! Just like that. Like, and when I played with friends, they got really pissed off at me for that.
That's awesome.
Is it weird to hear yourself?
You know, for someone with anxiety, I'm weirdly okay with public speaking and hearing myself. I don't know how that happened. I kind of won the anxiety lottery. I hope that doesn't change at some point. But yeah, for some reason, public speaking doesn't freak me out that much, and hearing myself doesn't make me go, unless I hear. Sometimes I'll like listen. There have been a couple of times in Life is Strange where I'll hear my own line delivery and be like, that was not the way you say that line, Ashly! But it doesn't happen too much. Yeah, it was weird. It was mostly the weirdest thing actually. For some reason, was playing Borderlands 2 and hearing Roland just say like an expositional line. For some reason, was like my brother wrote everything. Like my brother, like hearing the jokes, I was like used to hearing because it's like Hey-ish style of humor. But for some reason, just hearing like a straight delivered line that's just trying to tell you how to get from point A to point B, I was like, whoa, Anthony wrote everything in this game, and it kind of messed me up. I was like, this is crazy. But yeah, hearing myself isn't that difficult for me anymore. It was like weird like a couple of times, and I was like, whatever. I hear it all the time.
That sounds utterly terrifying.
Yeah. So yeah, I have friends that are like, don't show me I have actor friends that are like, I don't want to hear it, don't show me playback, I'm going to do it, and then I'm never going to look at it again. But yeah, for me, I'm okay with it.
It's like being a musician, and when you make an album, you like never listen to it because you can hear everything wrong with it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like don't go through it and like be like, oh, that was fine, everything about that performance is fine. I see all the points where I was like, that didn't sell, that didn't sound quite right, that, you know. But it's also good because it's teaching me, you know. And I can remember back to where I was and like what I was doing in that moment. I'm like, okay, what can I do differently to get the performance that I want to hear more next time? So it's helpful, I think. But yeah, it also consists of a fair amount of like, God damn it, that's not how humans talk, Ashly. Why do you think that's not natural? But yeah, not too much of that.
So I have a question, I guess.
Yeah.
To go back to sort of politics,
sure.
You know, and gender and representation and stuff. What do you think about what's your perspective on, you know, like Borderlands 1 was not great in a lot of ways.
Right.
Like, and then Borderlands 2 was, I think and it's funny because I think you can actually, it like continues to improve like through the DLC and the pre-sequel, they're like, we're gonna have one woman for every man. Like, what is that? How does that happen? And I'm just curious what your perspective on that is.
Yeah, so actually, I gave a talk at GDC recently with my colleague Rosalind, where we pretty much the whole talk was we surveyed a bunch of kids, boys and girls, and it's crazy actually because we wanted to have an option for other gender, and a lot of schools wouldn't let us do that. They like freaked them out. They're like, there are other genders, no! Like they just wouldn't let us give them the survey. So I actually was really interested to see how many kids identified as like trans, and we couldn't ask, which kind of sucked. But yeah, so we surveyed a bunch of different kids and asked them about their gaming habits, and we wanted to know like what kind of games girls actually play, because we make all these assumptions. And what do boys like think that girls play games? What games do they think they play, and all this kind of stuff. And the results are actually, they're floating around the internet. They're actually really amazing. It's like boys think girls play all types of games. They want more girls playing their games. Girls care more about seeing themselves represented in games than boys do, all this kind of stuff.
I've heard that.
Yeah, so it's this whole thing where it's like, all the preconceptions we have are wrong. But I think the problem that happens is that a lot of, because it's interesting, you know, you said before, like, telling a developer to just add one feature, it's like, when you don't understand game development is actually like, you don't know what you're asking in a way. But the problem, I think, is that games, especially AAA games, indie titles are different. AAA games cost so much money to make, and to compete in the AAA market, you have to have so much capital and so much manpower. And you'll notice any game that's come out in the last few years, it's like they're just throwing literally everything they possibly can into the game, you know? Like there are a lot of games, or a lot of articles when Watch Dogs came out, was like if they had just made a game that was focused in on the one thing about this game that was interesting, it would have been a much better game. But because AAA games are built around like, we just have to throw everything in because if it doesn't sell, we're gonna go under, oh my god. Because that's really what the stakes are at this point. Like games cost so much money, you have to sell an insane amount of units to break even. So a lot of the choices that I think are made from that perspective are very fear-based of how are we gonna maintain, like, I mean, you've seen in the news, there's so many companies that have just folded. So that's that perspective, to give like a more round perspective, not just be like, game developers are lazy or whatever, don't care about gender. I think a lot of game developers do, actually, but it's coming from the executives. My understanding, I've talked to a lot of game developers about this, is there's this perception of like, well, all the games that have sold in the past however many years have male protagonists. So it's a risk to put in a female protagonist. Is their perception of it, which is false, I should say. It's actually not true, but what they end up doing is they say, okay, if there's a female protagonist, it's not going to sell as well. So then they don't market it. So then if it doesn't get marketed, it doesn't sell. So it becomes this chicken and egg thing where it's you already essentially, what's the phrase I'm looking for? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, exactly. Where you're saying, okay, it's not going to sell if there's a female as the lead, so I'm not going to market it, so then it doesn't sell. So there is a lot of reticence in that regard, I think. So the problem with that is that there's just a preconception about, there's incorrect preconceived notions about what sells and why, which our talk was trying to sort of alleviate some of that stuff. Because it's crazy, like, the findings literally were like, oh my god, we're wrong. We're wrong about everything. Like, girls play so many types of games. Boys want more girls playing their games. It's not like, the majority of boys aren't like, no, it's only my hobby. It's like, they want more girls playing their games. And, yeah, and the majority of boys and girls think that the sexualization of women is ridiculous. The majority of boys and girls want to see more female heroes. It's crazy, it's insane. So we're just operating on the same system. It's like, I actually once asked Anthony, because Anthony knows a lot more about the inner workings of games and stuff than I do, because I've never actually worked at a game company, apart from Valve, but Valve is like a weird, like, it doesn't really apply, it's just all different. And I was like, why do you think that Call of Duty keeps adding story mode every single time? Because obviously multiplayer is the most popular part of the game. And he was like, because that's what's sold for the past millions of years. And so if they're afraid of changing it. His theory is like, I think they're afraid of changing it, because this is already a money-making, it already works, so why, if it's broke, don't fix it. Or if it's, if it broke, don't fix it.
I guess the other reason is, like, if you don't add a campaign that has, like, a continuing story, they can't, like, if they ever, like, release just the multiplayer, people will just treat it like CSGO and play just the multiplayer, and they won't, like, jump into the next yearly release.
Right. That's smart, actually. I didn't think about that.
Thing is, most people already do play. I know a lot of people. I mean, I work at GameStop. Most people come in and they don't even touch the campaign. They're just like, I want it for multiplayer.
Yeah.
That's all they want it for. So.
Yeah.
Year after year.
So it's this one thing of like, well, we know how to sell stuff, so they're not thinking about it in terms of like, well, we could even broaden our market if we incorporated more diverse representations of all different types of people. They're just like, well, this is what's sold for so long, so that's what we're going to keep doing. And then there's also, I think, an added thing of it's a more narrative-based game. I've heard a lot of male writers that I've talked to that are scared of writing female characters, or trans characters, or queer characters, or gay characters. They just don't. They're like, I don't know what. I've never been that, so I don't know, and I'm scared of doing the wrong thing and people being mad at me for doing the wrong thing. Which my answer to that is like, well, then if you're. My main thing is like you just write a character as a character. And it's interesting because so many people for a long time were like, you should just write gay people as if they're just like you. It's like it doesn't even matter. It's like you wouldn't even know if they're gay or not, which is important. But then I also remember reading an article from a gay man that was like, but there are also flamboyant gay men that exist. So you can't really say that experience also doesn't matter and doesn't count. So it's pretty much just like write a character that seems interesting to you. And like we said before, you're gonna mess up. That's just what's going to happen. There's going to be some part of your game or your movie or whatever that's going to piss someone off. It's definitely going to happen. We've done it a million times already. Hey, Ash has. And Borderlands 2 has as well. But yeah, something that you do is going to piss someone off, but it's the intention behind it in terms of what you're putting forth, I think, that is important. And also listening to people when they tell you how the things that you've done are problematic. And not being like, but my intention was to make it a good character, so thus it is fine. You have to be like, okay, well, I'm not that person and I haven't had that experience, so I can see where that would be offensive or whatever. And then you learn and then you grow. But yeah, I think it's the fear of doing the wrong thing and getting in trouble, and then also of like, oh, what if the game doesn't sell? Is like the combined.
They did that with the one Assassin's Creed that came out with PSV and it had a black female character.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't advertise it. I didn't know about it.
Yeah, I didn't even know that game existed for like ever. Yeah.
And then they're like, oh yeah, it failed. And I was like,
no one knew. You didn't tell anyone about this game.
Like someone told me, I saw my friend playing it, and I was like, what is that? Because I was like, you don't normally see a black female main character for a game. She's like, oh, Assassin's Creed. I was like,
wait, what?
Yeah.
The thing about me is.
They have the video. It was a video game.
Yeah.
Well, like Beyond Good and Evil, that was another game that I thought was really well, but didn't get marketed.
Yeah.
Because
what game?
What? Beyond Good and Evil.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many games with female protagonists that people just don't. That's why I'm so happy that people are talking about Life is Strange, because I'm like, oh my god, this is a game with 2 female protagonists and people actually like it and they're talking about it. This is amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the AAA space, people are like really nervous.
The thing about me is, as a writer, I never really had trouble writing female characters, and I follow that philosophy. And I've had a couple people ask me like, how do you write female characters? I'm like, how do you write female characters? Write an awesome character and make all the pronouns she, or unless they're trans. But if they're girl, change all the pronouns. Boom. Just write an awesome character and make it female. That's how you do it.
And also, there's also the added thing of like, hey, do you have female friends? Do you have trans friends? You can go and talk to them and be like, I'm thinking of writing this type of character. Does this seem true to your experience, or does? Because there's also the thing of like, people are saying like, Lara Croft is not even a woman. She's just a dude with tits. Like she's just a man with a woman facade. They're not like really making a truly female character, like a truly, So there's also the part of like, well, then ask people. It's fine to ask, like if you're not sure about.
I imagine most people would be okay. I mean, you would be okay if a friend came and asked for your perspective on helping of a trans character, I imagine.
Well, I was gonna say, I was reading an interview. I can't remember his name. The lead writer for Dragon Age Inquisition said that when writing the trans character for him, that he just kept going to his trans friends and was like, "Will you read this for me? Did I do it right?" And he was like, and they always said no. But eventually they did say yes.
That's the thing is that like if you're ever worried about that, I really highly doubt that someone, if you have a female friend and you go up like, hey, I'm trying to write a female character, will you give me your take, that she'd be like, no. Like I just really doubt that anyone is going to react negatively to you wanting to give the best representation of, It's also like, I get there's all this whole thing of like, well, one woman can't represent all of womankind, but there's like there's a benefit to having a female perspective, obviously.
Those resources are like, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, what?
But like those resources are available because like I did this game jam called Jam for Leela. That was about Leela Alcorn, who was a trans teenager that committed suicide. And like I didn't like that was not my experience, so like I didn't want to write it, but I asked the organizers, who I'd never met. I just tweeted at them like, hey, I'm writing this thing, can you like look it over and let me know like if this is true to the experience? And they totally did, and they were cool with it.
Yeah.
Like, and I'd never met them, so like those resources are totally out there.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you brought up the point that guys, we don't desire to see ourselves represented in media as much, because that took me a while to figure out. I mean, as guys, like, it's really hard to write from a trans perspective or female perspective. But I'm glad you brought that up, because that took me a while to figure out that we really don't really understand when it comes to representation, because we've never really cared. I mean, we see ourselves represented all the time, but it's very, very different, because I enjoy playing games as female characters. A lot of times I'll choose female just because I love voices and I love accents. Like, accents are like my fascination. I love learning them, hearing them. So I love hearing female voices because I love just different types of voices. That's why I like voice acting so much. But so I'll play female characters. Like, that's why I did female Shepherd, and that's why I consider voice acting was
so good.
But I mean, I didn't really think about like this actually has a huge impact on girls who play games.
Yeah, it's really important. I think also it's more important to try than not at the end of the day also, you know?
That's true.
And the other thing too is if you're worried about like, I'm gonna ruin this female character, put more than one female character in, because then she's not representative of the entire gender, you know? I remember talking to some game developers that were like, yeah, we want to do this one female character, but it was like, it was that common ratio that you see in games where it's like 3 guys to 1 girl. And they were like, and they wanted to make it was like actually a really cool idea for a character. She was this like plus size black woman that was just gonna be like just fucking messing people up. And I was like, that sounds awesome. I want to play as that character, but because she was the only female character, they were like, people are gonna be weirded out by this character. Or like, what if people think it's offensive or whatever. So then they just ended up making not that character. And it's like, well, if you had 2 women, then you could have taken the risk on the one that maybe you were afraid would be too offensive, and then had another female character, so you don't have this one person that's meant to represent all of the entire form of gender.
What are your favorite games that have female characters that you feel are great female characters?
I always talk about Mass Effect. I mean,
every female character in that.
Tali is amazing, Liara is amazing, female Shepherd, Samara, all the characters, they're so good. So good. Gone Home. I'm trying to think of games that obviously, Last of Us is a common example that Ellie is a great character. She is really good.
The DLC for that was...
I actually haven't played it.
It's really good. I won't spoil what you discover about her, but I think you'll like it.
Yeah.
It's really great development DLC.
Yeah.
Great character development.
The Walking Dead Clementine is an interesting... She's so well done because although she's not like... There are not that many traits I can say about Clementine necessarily, but there's just something about her that struck the perfect balance between you just wanting to just take care of her, because it'd be very easy to make a kid character where you're just like, here's a gun, just deal with it. Like, where you just are really like, oh no, I need to protect you, I don't care if I die.
There's not a lot to say about her because she's a little girl.
Yeah, but there's something about the way that they designed her.
Huh?
She's a mature little girl.
The voice acting is amazing for her.
And season 2 though really is great for the perspective change.
Yeah.
Where instead of like her being her, they really make you feel like you're a little kid, but it's like, but she has tons of agency in terms of like she's totally in control of her life, which is really cool. I would recommend checking it out. Then it's really kind of
Yeah, I need to play that. There's so many Telltale games I need to, there's so many games I need to catch up on, but yeah, I need to finish that and work on this as well.
Don't play their Jurassic Park.
The Back to the Future one I hear is really fun.
It's meh.
Really? The wrong resources, I guess.
On top of writing female characters, though, like this is going to seem out my point, but it's an industry from a developmental standpoint where there's a great thing that this guy gives, I don't remember if it was COD or Battlefield, but he talks about like, oh, you know, the old style of Humvee doors, they're basically cloth, and then we went over to Iraq and blah, blah, blah. And so I spent a bunch of time with the troops and look at this. And he shows a cutscene from the game where it's someone like prying open a Humvee door, and he's like, look how heavy it is. We got that because we went over there and got the perspective of this car. And it's, whatever else he says, it's a weird thing. People are willing to put in that kind of effort, whether you think that's a good example or not. And David Gator says this at BioWare a lot, is if you want to have women who are written well, hire women to write them.
Yeah.
Because for all of the expense that the industry does for all this other stuff, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's another huge problem in terms of just everything. Non-white, non-male. Like, it's just, there's a huge disparity there in the industry. So if you're a developer hiring folks, you should look at those groups. Because it makes your games better too. I mean, Mass Effect is talked about all the time for how amazing all of its characters are. And there's actually a really wonderful anecdote I remember reading about from, I think the head writer of, I can't remember which Dragon Age, but I can't remember the gender breakdown of that writer's room, but there were definitely a lot of women in the Dragon Age writer's room. And he was telling an anecdote of how they were writing this mission, and it was a male writer, and it involved sexual assault, essentially. So there's like this character that gets sexually assaulted, then you have to save her or something like that. And he took it to the writer's room, and all the guys were like, yeah, cool, okay, cool. And then one of the women was like, can we talk about this mission, actually? And then they talked through it, and then they were like, oh, they didn't realize that, like, sexual assault is, like, a really lazy writing tool used against women all the time, like, up stakes, and, like, it's actually not very sensitive to people that have gone through that and all that kind of thing. Not that women should just be moral gatekeepers, but it was this thing where, like, they didn't realize that that was... Because, obviously, if you're not afraid of being sexually assaulted all the time, then you probably don't think about it, but it's one of those things that having women in the room, they were like, oh, if this had just been a room full of dudes, this mission would have gone through. It would have just sailed past them. But because the women being like, well, wait, let's talk about that one for a second, they ended up changing it and making it better, and also not just using, because if you're a writer, using sexual assault as like a tool to like make something happen to, it's so, don't do it. It's lazy, it's bad writing, don't do it. Anyway.
I've heard it said too that just because it's kind of a young industry, like film kind of went through the same sort of arc where it was mostly created by men and for men. And
still is.
And look,
it's predominantly still male.
Yeah. But I guess I feel like maybe like the independent film like section sort of helped kind of get around that. And so maybe that's what we're gonna see with games too.
Well, definitely most independent developers that I've met are very conscious of this type of stuff. Like, most indie developers I've met actually recently are very cognizant of like including female characters and that kind of thing. I think there still is even within the indie scene, because at a younger age, I mean, it kind of trickles down all the way back down into childhood, but girls aren't ever really, it's just never seen as, for most girls, a viable pathway to become a game developer. It's never really being supported. I mean, there's just this preconceived notion like girls are bad at math and science, so let's not worry about pushing them into those fields. So that's part of the problem is, from a very young age, women are being put down this path that if they ever want to then make games, this is difficult because while boys are kind of already on this path, they're like, yeah, you can do literally anything. Girls are like, well, you can do these things. So if you haven't realized like, oh, I really want to make games, so I need to make sure that I'm taking classes in computer science and et cetera, then you're already kind of behind in terms of just like basic technical skills to make games. So there's lots of initiatives that are trying to fix that. I know Girls Make Games is a really great nonprofit that's trying to, they're awesome, by the way, that are trying to help girls learn the skills that they need to create games. But yeah, it's one of those difficult things where it all starts really young, where it's, girls are sort of told indirectly and directly in different ways the things that they can do, and usually it does not involve math and science.
Every the Ubisoft games as well, like no, you don't need to play like Kingdom Hearts and so on. You can go play like babies, like this like 4 girls game.
Dogs with a
Dogs.
Z.
Cats.
Horses.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah,
who said
horses.
Who said that? Was that something that someone
Aliens.
Well, there's a huge history there that's kind of terrifying, right? With the, you know, like when we get the word computer, it referred to what was a room full of women who were doing math for professors. That's where we get the word. And then a lot of the first computer engineers were women, and like it really, a lot of it traces back to this big marketing campaign that like people like IBM did, where they're like, no one will ever take computers seriously because they're associated with women. And the number one thing we need to do to sell them is to just make sure that it's a man thing. And like it was like for 30 years, that's all the marketing for computers that companies like IBM did. We have to make it more masculine. We've got to push women even further out, even though so many of the first computer engineers were women. You know?
Yeah.
And it's even a word that we get that refers to a group of women doing math.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
It actually happened in video games as well. There's a really good feature on Polygon, if y'all haven't read it, called Girls Not Allowed, I think. No Girls Allowed. That talks about how in the 90s, the reason that games are seen as like a boys' hobby is because arbitrarily in the 90s, marketers were like, okay, we have to focus in on one demographic, because if you just try to market something to everyone, then it doesn't sell as well as if you narrow it and make it marketed toward a specific group. So they're like, well, we're going to market video games towards boys. That's it. That's the only reason. It's that. It's pretty like girls and boys. It was a non-gender specific thing, and then in the 90s, marketers became very like, okay, we're going to market this to boys, and from there, it became now considered a boys' hobby. When before, it was completely non-gender specific.
Yeah, and the rule of thumb about that is the whole idea that boys, of course. I mean, yeah, I understand. And it's kind of weird because I grew up and I didn't have video games for a large time of my life, so I didn't really get that whole advertisement thing. But it actually is still around heavily. And in fact, it really normally, like, you guys remember the Dead Space 2 advertisement? It's like, your mom will hate this. And they did this whole advertisement where it showed a middle-aged woman being shown Dead Space, and they're like reacting like, oh, this is it. And it's, I'm like, have we really sunk that far? Like, we've come so far in this industry, we really have to take that many steps back?
Yeah.
But I guess it really is interesting because I remember a while ago I was trying to rationalize why gaming is a predominantly male hobby and always has been, but I really couldn't figure out a reason why. There's nothing inherent about gaming that is for guys.
I think particularly for the 1980s or beforehand was that they made people tie D&D playing with gaming in general, particularly with like the more advanced games like Civ 1. So like, if you look at D&D and say I could never get into that, and then look at Civ 1, if you try to identify it to Civ 1, it didn't really apply as well because it was very obtuse and very, very direct. And so I feel like the choice to say like, oh, we're gonna market this to boys wasn't like made in a vacuum too well, but it was made.
There's an excellent website talking about game advertisement, but more about Legos, where you can put the audio from female commercials on top of the video from male commercials and vice versa. And it is just ridiculous because the girl ones are like, play with your friends, you can make cupcakes and sell them to your Lego friends. And the boy ones are like, oh, put out fires. And you put them on top of each other and it's just ridiculous. It shows you how insanely disparate it is.
Yeah.
There's at least one universe where it went the other way.
There's an alternate timeline.
Yeah. What would that universe look like? Like, I get cynical and I'm like, oh, then it's just like associated with girls and it's like a girl thing and it's got its own connotations there. Like, but,
yeah, I mean, marketers are not really in the game of making non-super gendered decisions.
Or sensitive decisions at all.
Right. So, yeah, I don't know what it would look like if it had gone the other way.
Oh,
I assume that they probably wouldn't have done, like, an interesting thing with it. They probably would have been like, Barbies, but,
Well, that's speaking of the Barbie, like Barbie game dev thing.
Oh yeah, but she has to like, go ask her male friends.
It's like, like, oh, Barbie wants to make a game. I'm like, cool, yeah. And then at the end, yeah, she's like, so I thought up a game, now I'm asked a boy to make it. I'm like, no, Barbie.
There's a lot that there's a lot about Barbie that kind of, that it gets called sexist, but I'm like a little bit, but that was just like, I'm reading something like, how is this redeemable at all? There's no redemption, there's no good, like, what the heck?
What's redeemable, like taking all the comics and changing all the words?
But like the marketing of those old like girl in quotes games like horses never made sense because like all the female game developers I know are like, yeah, I got into games through like The Sims, not like through Bratz Mall.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Those are the girls who stopped playing video games in
Yeah.
high school. They're like over it.
Yeah, and so like as someone who's currently like doing
I love your game taste so much. No, dude, for sure. Yeah, why not? That doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, like I'm not saying that's bad. Like it's totally cool. But yeah, like I'm like currently I'm like doing marketing PR for like kind of the first time because I transferred from writing journalism to PR, which is like everyone's like, oh, you're a traitor, but whatever. So like I'm doing it for the first time, and I'm like trying to look into the history of like all this video game marketing, and I'm like, why? It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like even the market research doesn't back it up. Like
Yeah.
in many cases. So yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, my personal experience, like, you know how you have like those 4-person parties and there's only one girl? Well, it's the opposite. I've got like a 3-person party and there's only one guy gamer, and that's me. My mom's a gamer, my grandma's a gamer. She introduced me to video games. Like Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time on the weekend, that was like the best weekend ever. So much so that when my parents tried to take me to Sunday school one Sunday, I was gone because I was trying to walk to grandma's house. Which was, I didn't understand at the time, was like, 20 miles away, and I wasn't going to make it. But luckily somebody found me, like an old couple, and they were just like, you need to go home.
You're like, no, Zelda!
And then my sister's a gamer too, and yeah, she shared the Bratz game thing with you too, growing up, and now she's like totally playing Devil May Cry and just
The
but
PS2, it was like a rhythm game.
yeah. But I mean, so I was just like, wait, girls don't play video games? Like, what's the stereotype? Like,
I don't understand.
where's it coming? I wasn't dealing with the whole trend because I just like grew up in that household where like I was the only guy that played video games. Like my mom was like kicking butt in EverQuest before I was like even born.
Hardcore.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I played Cake Mania. That was like my super feminine game.
I had dogs though because I know
Dogs are adorable.
Right,
Whatever.
yeah.
I made fun of
My
them, but
dad's
dogs are really
allergic
cute.
to
And
dogs.
speak
Couldn't get
for
one.
yourself.
That was
There's nothing feminine about cake. Cake is a gender neutral thing. Okay? I would make cakes all the time.
I love that game. Dude, I played the crap out of that, and my friends were like, yeah, we don't want to play that with you. And I'm like, get out. I don't even care. I got Dashin, like...
I don't need you anymore.
Yeah, I had a real dog, so I didn't know.
Yeah. Also, Cooking Mama. I'm not afraid.
Okay, that
Cooking Mama was awesome.
I love Cooking Mama. Oh man, she got so angry at me.
There's a clock right there.
I'm so done. Yeah, just so y'all know, we have like around 20 minutes left for this guy. I need to pee real bad, so after this, I'm gonna find a bathroom. But I see you've got like a Borderlands and stuff. If you want me to sign things, I will just be in this area, so you just come up to me and
Inside my badge.
yeah. I don't think I have. I have Sharpies on me.
Sharpies work best.
No, I super don't.
I get jokes.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, so I'm gonna right after this I have to run and find a bathroom, or else I'll pee on one of you, and then I'll be back. Just so you guys know.
Cool.
Yeah. Did you have a question?
Kind of.
Okay.
I may be small, but I do make games.
Oh, cool.
Absolutely.
I've made probably one game that's actually finished. All the rest is just like a block in the middle of a community thing. It's planned, but I've never even done anything for it. So I don't have like multiple thousands of dollars to be able to buy people to make art or film stuff, so I have to do it all myself. So it's all pretty crappy, but
no, it's not crappy.
Your friends and your brothers and your dad.
And what's
I get help. Like I think my friend drew a zombie or something like that, and I just ended up putting it in and having to build off it.
what's your name?
Aiden.
Aiden, I can tell you that I'm from University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. We have the Global Game Jam every year. Do you take part in that? It's a 48-hour game development marathon where we're given a theme.
I try, but
It's fine. There's a kid about your age shows up every single year for the past how many years we've done it and makes games with a bunch of older college kids.
Yeah.
And he is way better than me, and I'm the one going to school for it. And I can tell you that the fact that you're doing this at your age will give you more benefits than anybody of my age. I started when I went to college. The fact that you're doing it now, you will be a rock star if you continue it when you get to college.
Yeah, actually, literally anything. If you start now and you just keep doing it, then you're gonna be.
You're gonna be a rock star.
So it's gonna be fine.
So keep doing it.
Yeah.
Keep
Someday,
doing it.
some of us in this room might end up working for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing that you're making games already.
Yeah, I love it.
That may be small. Just say I make video games.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm small.
Yeah, and no matter how small scale the game is, no matter how simple it is, keep doing it.
there was a kid who was about, I think he was 11 when he did it, but he did a TED Talk.
Oh,
Really?
wow.
Holy cow.
What was his
That
TED
was
Talk
kids
about?
mobile games?
Yeah.
Yep.
Justin Bieber or something like that. And you just,
Justin Bieber.
Justin Bieber, you whack, it's like a whack-a-mole, but Justin Bieber like that.
He must have a sister.
And he has like a world, he made an app that was like a picture of the world and it changes color based on what's happening.
Wow.
Sherry did so. Oh, that's what you got.
And I got
Yeah, we can use monthly content like that over here.
Yeah, you just keep doing it. That's really awesome that you're making games. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say, like, in your keynote, I'm glad you mentioned, like, your experience of, like, bonding with your brother over video games. The reason I was, like, able to bond with my family members, like, the main reason was, like, video games. Like, my older sister was Donkey Kong Country 2, my brother was Metal Gear Solid, and my little sister was Soul Calibur 2 and Barbie Adventure, Barbie Racing Ride. You know, I didn't care, I played that with her, I was so excited, like, you know, I actually like video games. But yeah, I'm a strong believer that like video games like have long-lasting, like, you know, can make bonds and relationships that will last like for years to come. And like that's the reason why I want to make games too.
Totally.
Like I want to be a part of like helping like people create relationships and bonds.
Yeah,
I think that's another dimension too, where the gender problem comes in, because a lot of people believe that video games have no place in romantic relationships. But to be honest, like I went through a breakup a couple years ago, and he's now my best friend because of Borderlands 2.
Oh, really?
We hadn't finished when we broke up, so 3 months later I called him and said, we have to finish this game. And then it was like, do you want to play through the second time? And we're like, you know what, sure. So now he's my best friend. And I think that people, and this is kind of what I'm studying, is people need to understand that there are games that are accessible to everyone, and that's a really great way to bring people together, not just families, but also romantic and, you know, just friend relationships. Yeah. And even to meet people. You can meet people through games.
Yeah. There are a lot of people that I know, or I receive stories from how games saved my life, that like met their spouse on WoW, or one of my friends met, what was the Star Wars MMO?
The Old Republic or Star Wars Galaxy.
Yeah, the Old Republic. She met her husband because they both played that game, but then they actually met on the forums for that game. So it's super common. I think.
I met a couple who were in the same clan in World of Warcraft. They got married.
Yeah.
You were asking about favorite gaming moments.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that. Like, what was it? And I gave my little sister, my used copy of Red Dead Redemption, just like you know, try it out, see what you think. And I was like, she's probably not gonna like it. It's like Cowboy Old West. Called her up a week later, and she's like, I've played through that like multiple times. I am in love with that game so much, and she and I just talked for like an hour and a half just about everything in that game, and I was like, okay, it was like a new level for us. Yeah.
That's so sweet. Oh, thanks for sharing that.
One of the people showing, so I did a panel on gender identity in video games with Glitch a couple months ago, And Charles, one of the developers who was on it, was talking about how his parents didn't really understand what he was doing or why video games and whatever. And then they started playing The Walking Dead season 1 together, and they like threw the shout at the TV, like, "No, pick the other half!" And it really brought his family together, and I think that was really cool.
That's so sweet. Yeah.
I was downstairs and my dad, he's really, well, I don't know what he likes to watch westerns and stuff like that. So I was downstairs and my sister was playing Call of Duty. And we were younger, so we were not really supposed to play mature games.
Yeah.
So he comes downstairs, he's like, "Oh, hey, I want to watch." And we're just like, "Oh, shoot." So we sit down and we start playing, and he's like, "Yeah, you have no aim." And he's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "You see those lasers? You gotta aim at the lasers, because that's usually where they are." And he's like sitting there giving me like coaching lessons on playing Call of Duty, and I was like, "Yeah, shh." So everybody plays, he's like, oh, you're playing that war game again? Okay, let me help you.
See, for me, was my favorite moment was not necessarily a moment that I was playing, was the moment that I witnessed. It was the first time my oldest brother beat Ocarina of Time, because that's the game that got me into gaming. So we had an N64 when I was in kindergarten. About first grade, we argued over it too much. My parents took it away, and I didn't have video games until like freshman year of high school. Very boring in my house, but they couldn't stop it. The impact that this moment had on me was I was watching him beat Ganon. Spoilers. But the thing was during the credits was when Link goes back in time, and the last images of him standing in front of Zelda as kids again, and the scene all of a sudden just turns to like this gold plating, like it's cemented in time, and that image in my head had such an impact on me because these were two characters that you played and you experienced together, and now that was like symbolizing, it was in my mind, cemented in my mind. And for some reason, that was such a powerful moment to me, to see these two characters look at each other and share that moment, and then it just ends. And to this day, I want to know, what the frick happens after that? Those are the best endings that do that.
Ocarina of Time, do you like the ending?
Yeah. I loved it!
I felt like it was a little odd, because you go and you save like this entire world, and you go every time and nobody remembers. It's like you saved the world and people think, oh, you're just a normal person.
Well, I mean, if you fell asleep right now and woke up 7 years later, would you want those 7 years back?
Well, yeah.
I would too. So does Link. So he got the 7 years back.
He's the world.
He's the unsung hero.
Yeah.
That's actually the lore behind it. Do you play Twilight Princess?
I've played it. I'm not done yet, so don't spoil it.
No, I'm not gonna spoil it. But you learn the sword techniques from that big skeleton guy.
Yeah.
That's actually the Link from Ocarina of Time.
Oh.
The young Link.
Yeah.
Okay, look at the timeline sometime.
Yes, the timelines. The point is, that is the ghost.
We're talking about Zelda.
No, yeah, but there's this timeline stuff, but the point is that character is the ghost of the young Link who mourned because he was not remembered his actions, and he lost all that time, and he saved this world, and he was never remembered for it, and he lives on and got to teach the new Link those techniques.
I have to look at it. I have to Google it.
Oh yeah, it branches
Google
like
session.
3 trees.
But the thing is, Twilight Princess is in the same line as Ocarina of Time, so that's what happens. It's not like, oh no, different than, no, that's the timeline where that happens. The timeline where Twilight Princess happened, that is the young Link, so.
Did you ever play Zelda?
Me?
Actually.
Yes. I played Ocarina of Time. That was like my Zelda.
It was?
Yeah. I haven't played any of the SNS ones, and then Majora's Mask stressed me out too much. It stressed me out. Any game with a time restraint, I just can't handle it. It really, really
It was
stresses
fine
me
until
out.
I got to the water temple. Like, everything else was fine.
So after the first thing.
Yeah.
Oh wait, there was a hash Whatcha Playin. Now I remember. You did
Yeah.
Ocarina of Time for hash.
Yeah. I love Ocarina of Time. I tried playing Majora's Mask and it stressed me out too much. And then I haven't, I played some of Wind Waker, but I never finished it. And I never
That one's a
played
good one though.
Yeah, I know that one's
That was a
good.
good one to not finish sometimes. It's good to get this gold trophy.
They dumbed it down.
Like the Wii U version, they dumbed it down.
It's like 8 pieces.
Maybe I should play the dumbed down version.
You only have to collect like 3. It's perfect.
Battlefield anyone?
Yes. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I love those games. They're fun.
You take a guy to helicopter defibrillator?
You are really hardcore. I am not. No, I'm not that. I'm not that.
Well, it was kind of an accident. A helicopter tried to road kill me when I was trying to revive a teammate, and he kind of like hit me as soon as I was like let go, so it killed him.
You're incredible.
That's the coolest thing I've ever heard.
Honestly, I'm not that cool. Like if, when I see a helicopter going, I probably scream and try running away.
That's what I usually do.
The one moment with the adrenaline, and then you like let out a mighty scream and destroyed it.
No, I was like, whoa.
No, yeah, I'm a big fan of the Battlefield series because I always there's something about the destructible environments, the animations, the movement, the way the game works is actually really, really satisfying, even if you don't win. And that's really a key to competitive games. I'm not a competitive person by nature. I'll take a single player game any day of the week, but or co-op. I'm a huge co-op fan. Love play. I'd rather play with friends than against friends any day. But like Battlefield is great because it's satisfying even if I lose. It's still fun. You know? Anyway.
But did you ever play Link Between Worlds yet, or?
I have not.
I heard it's really good.
It's such a mix of the good mechanics from Zelda 1 with the like story mechanics from all the others.
Yeah. I played with this when they came out for this new GameCube. They had like you get all of them.
Yeah.
I had that one.
Yeah.
You lucky son of a gun.
Dude, you have the Majora's Mask 3DS. No, you can't call them.
So there's this game that I'm gonna share my game memory.
Yeah.
So there's this game, and it's actually pretty recent. There's this game called Boundin'. Has anyone heard of it?
Yeah.
For
Where you
phones?
dance?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like it's a ballet simulator, and like that is my de facto game to play with strangers. So like I'll like go to bars and be like, hey, you want to dance? And they're like, oh yeah, sure. And then I'm like, cool, and I whip out my phone. What are you doing? But like I've met like super close friends. I like dated someone through it. Like it's insane. It's so cool, and it's like the perfect stranger game. So like it's not really a specific memory, but like I've met more people by like playing ballet with them than.
What's it called? Bounded?
Boundin'. Like
Boundin'.
Boundin'.
Bound.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty much one. It's for mobile, and one person holds one part of the phone, and the other person holds the other part, and you have to do synchronized movements together.
There's like a circle, and there's like circles you collect on a big sphere, and like the only way to get them is to like twirl and spin.
Yeah. So it has music, and you're literally
It's
dancing.
super cool.
It's really neat.
Cool. Let me know if you want to play, guys.
Also, for anybody who has panic attacks, 2 dots is like so amazing. Like all like I get panic attacks and I have anxiety. My partner has chronic anxiety, and like tons of my friends have anxiety. We all have 2 dots. It's so good.
Is that what is that?
It's like it's one of those silly puzzle games where you just like basically the point is that you connect 2 dots and then they disappear and you try to like wipe the board, or you try to get like anchors down. There's like 600 levels now. And a lot of playing mechanics, but the music is really soothing. If you can listen to the music, but the art too is just amazing. It's so calming.
Is it a mobile game?
Yeah. I know it's for iOS.
It's for Android too.
And Android, great.
It's like a match 2.
Yeah, it's a match 2.
Oh, okay.
And then they introduce more and more complex mechanics as you go on, but it's so soothing. It's just like the whole world just goes away, and you're like, 2 dots. Where?
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
And I think the funniest thing is like I'll be having a panic attack. I'll have to go away, find some space. I'll start playing it, and I'll be like frustrated with it. I'm like, oh damn you! I'm like, oh my god, I got to that emotion.
With regards to panic attacks, this is something that just find myself. I've actually been meaning. If anybody here has anxiety, anybody know here about belly breathing? Belly breathing is something that I've learned from my therapist, and I've also learned from a social worker on campus when my anxiety got really bad, I think last year. It's basically where, because you're right, anxiety is where your brain is thinking this is the same thing as, oh my god, there's a cheetah chasing me. It's the fight or flight response. It's an evolutionary thing in your brain. But the way to calm it is this mechanism. I don't know how it works, but it seems to work. Is that You just find a space, you just calm down. And first of all, if you have anxiety, don't fight it, because the more you fight it, the more it's going to get worse. You have to, the best way I've heard to fight anxiety is literally just sit with it. Don't worry about it, which is hard to do, especially when you're, I am the kind of person like that too, where it's like, I'm going to jump to the worst conclusion. We just sit with it. Just think, all right, it's going to be over in a little bit. Just what you do is you breathe. You put your hands on your stomach. You breathe, except you breathe into your stomach, not your chest. And if you're a singer, it's going to feel really weird because you're a singer, you always so used to breathing into your diaphragm. If you breathe into your stomach, you go, you push your stomach out, breathe in as much as you can, hold it for a couple seconds. It depends on who you are. Some people like to do it longer, some people like to do it short. And then slowly exhale and force your stomach in. So really, it's called belly breathing because you're breathing with your belly, and you do that over and over again. It actually calms down the fight or flight response in your brain, so your brain actually calms down. I've used it before during the anxiety attacks. It helps a lot, but the best thing I know, and this is something I've used in this whole year. I've had anxiety, but I haven't had a panic attack, is just don't worry about it and just sit with it. You just sit down, and this is so easy to listen to, and when the social worker told me this, I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty easy, and then I tried to use it, like, this is hard as heck, like, wow, but you just have to, it sounds so easy, but you just sit, and it's going to take practice, you just sit, and let it happen, and just feel it come and go, and don't even worry about it, and just sit with it. That's the best advice I can give anybody with anxiety, and then do the belly breathing, and if you feel anxiety come along, don't panic, just think, all right, this is a good time to test belly breathing. Just throw it away, just toss it as if it's no big deal. It's hard to do. Yeah, or play 2 dots. And everybody finds those coping mechanisms. That's one that I've heard is the belly breathing, the forcing in the stomach, like breathing all the way and then pushing it out. It really helps calm that response. So that's okay.
Yeah, I have something similar to that somebody taught me, where you actually you just lightly tap underneath the collarbone, and it's supposed to actually create like a response in your nerves. It's supposed to put you into like a more calm state. You just kind of gently tap it, like in kind of like a nice steady rhythm or something like that, and it's supposed to calm you down. And I was like, this is really, really weird. It looks weird if I do it in public, but it works, because I have social anxiety, so I'm like, oh, that person seems really cool, I want to talk to them, and then I turn tail and run away. I'm the kind of person that walks past people multiple times, because I'm I'm gonna say something, Nope.
See, I'm kind of like Ashly in the sense that I have panic disorder. I don't have general anxiety where I don't feel anxiety all the time, but I extreme moments of panic. But I'm not in social. I can speak in front of people and I'm fine, which is weird because I have anxiety. You think that I'd be afraid of speaking, but I get in front of people. I love talking. I love being social. Which is so weird because I see so many people with the same thing I have who have that. And I'm once again, I just got lucky with the anxiety lottery.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I know for me, it's not the public thing doesn't scare me so much. It's the one-on-one with people.
Sure.
Because then I'm really thinking okay, what did they think
oh, it's just right here.
I basically managed to a good majority of the time I managed to convince myself that everybody thinks I'm cool.
I do that too.
So.
What do you ever get?
Yeah, I've been working on that and doing therapy and stuff like that, like you said. So.
Ever you're talking to someone, all of a sudden you realize, you think, wait, where am I supposed to look at them?
Yeah.
I have them oh God, where do I look at them? I look at the nose, the eye, the mouth.
It's so hard too, I feel because there's a lot of game developers that have either students or young like us, and it's so hard to break in, and you have to work for free, and I did journalism for free for 3 years. It was horrible. There were so many days where I was exhausted. I'd written a ton of stuff, and I go home and I'm oh, cool, well, I'm worthless. And then it just spiraled. Yeah, so this is really important stuff. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Are we done?
Yes.
Not done enough for your question?
Yeah, we'll end with you.
Okay, so on the similar vein, so as a developer, I always feel bad going out and asking people to do stuff because, I can't pay them. I feel like I'm just using their blood and labor to help, further. Because I traditionally stuff up, and I like to, my art is okay. I've taken graphic design, but when you ask me to do character design and more advanced backgrounds, I'm average. I'm trying to get in there. Multi-discipline. I think somebody brought that up earlier. But so when I go, I always feel bad because I'm especially with artists, and voice actors, a lot of times they always get, don't work for free. Always put, you know. And so I try to like, how do you go out and say something? Because I think the worst thing to say is, hey, you can work for free, and if I get some money, you may or may not get paid.
Right.
Be upfront about it.
Yeah.
Upfront, right away. Tell them I can't pay you. I can give you experience and portfolio.
Yeah, and I always feel bad
resume
saying
stuff.
that because they probably pay that a lot. Like I can give you.
Well, I would also say, I mean, if your project is like really serious and big, consider revenue share, because that's like a different type of structure where like after the game is sold, then some of the portions can go to them. So they do work for free, but there is like kind of some sort of liability.
If the game is successful.
If the game is successful.
But for right now, I want to go into the interactive fiction competition. That's at the end of the year, so I would just be running it through competition circuits. I wouldn't actually make later games.
There are some people that like if they're on the same plane, if they're just starting out, they're just getting their foot in the door, you know, they'll be willing to do that, you know. It's one of those things where it's not like you're getting paid.
Yeah.
You know?
And I want
it gets
to
sketchy when it's like I'm getting paid, but I'm not going to pay you. Like everyone's just working for free for the passion of the project. It's different, you know.
Okay.
And you know, as long as you're upfront about it.
Yes, exactly. Just don't hide the fact like
Don't be like, yeah, you'll get paid. You know, like, just be nice about it.
Oh, look at that. Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you,
and talking.